So one of the first things to think about when you're preparing for mediation is that mediation can sometimes take all day. It can be a 6 or 8 hour long process. And so it's a number of things you need to think about in advance. One, you want to try to get a good night's sleep. This isn't going to court. It's much more informal. It is less stressful than going to court. And you want to talk to your lawyer about, how to prepare and what kinds of things to expect, and that'll help you get a good night's sleep. You want to eat breakfast in the morning. You want to make sure that you've got childcare arrangements set up so that if your child's in school, who's picking up the child from school if you're still in mediation, or who's getting them off the bus. Make sure that if you've got small children and they're at home during the day, that you've got childcare lined up for the entirety of the day. You want to be able to set off as much time that day to try to get through all of the issues and try to resolve them, and not feel like you're on the clock and you've got to be done by 3 o'clock to go pick up the kids from school or what have you. So best to prepare by making sure that you've got the entirety of your day to work with that day of mediation. So another way of preparing for mediation is to really think through kind of your negotiation points. What's your best case scenario in court? What's your best case scenario in mediation? What do those look like? But you also want to think about, all right, this is the kind of the baseline that I don't want to go past in terms of what I'd be willing to settle the case for, and have that going in. Now, the key to family law is being flexible, and sometimes things don't work out on those 2 points, and you may find a different resolution that day that didn't fit cleanly in where you're thinking it would. So be open to that, but it's good to have some ideas about what you really want to have, that you feel like you've got to have out of the mediated settlement, and the things that you're willing to give and compromise on in order to get to the things that you really want. Another thing to think about when preparing for mediation is this is an opportunity for you to decide what happens in your case. At a trial, the judge makes all of those decisions for you, and you're stuck with them. At mediation, no one's making decisions about your case except you and your former or your soon-to-be former spouse. And so that gives you a lot of control over what the remainder of your minor childhood years looks like, how the estate gets divided, those sorts of things. The mediator is not a judge. They're not making decisions. They're just trying to help facilitate those conversations. Your attorneys are going to give you advice during the day and give you feedback, but ultimately in a mediation, you're the one who makes the decisions about what gets settled and what that looks like. One other way to prepare for mediation that I think a lot of people miss or aren't thinking about is there's a good chance that you do settle your case at mediation, and that's a wonderful thing, but it also means you've reached near the end of your divorce process and the end of your marriage, and that can be really difficult and really hard to work through, particularly at mediation, because you've been there for 6 or 7 or 8 hours. And then the realization hits that once we resolve this last issue, I'm almost divorced at this point. In Georgia, the judge still has to sign off on it, but you've largely handled the case at that point. And that can be a really difficult time, particularly at the end of a long day. So that is a good thing to be thinking about what that feels like. How am I going to feel when that time comes if we're able to settle the case? And start thinking about those emotions beforehand so that you're better prepared to deal with them in a positive, productive way at the end of mediation. Preparing for mediation is a critical part of your divorce case. Mediation gives you the opportunity to settle your case on your terms and not based on what the judge decides. Advanced preparation is key, and it's something that we provide our clients at the Manili firm with as part of their work on their case, that we are trying to think through all of the possible scenarios and put them in the best possible position to settle their case at mediation.